In the previous video, we looked at combining different tenses to be able to better get our point across. We're going to stick with that same theme in this video, but we're going to look specifically at using the preterite tense and the imperfect tense together. This is something that we do all the time when we're talking about the past, and it's something that with a little bit of practice isn't very tricky, but it can be tricky at first before you really get it down. So to do that, let's have a quick refresher about what each of these two tenses is used for, and then we'll look at using them together. The preterite tense, as you hopefully recall, is used to talk about completed past actions, and the imperfect tense is used to talk about ongoing or repetitive past actions. Now don't get thrown off by the word ongoing. Sometimes people hear that and they think it means that it's still ongoing. We're not talking about now, we're talking about at whatever point in time we're referring to in the past, it was still ongoing back then. That's what we mean by ongoing past actions. A couple of simple examples in English will hopefully help clarify this for you. The dog barked would be a completed past action. The dog was barking is an ongoing past action. At that point in time, whenever it was, the dog was still barking, so that was ongoing. Or the dog used to bark. If it used to, that means that it was a repetitive thing. Once we understand those distinctions, then we can pretty easily determine which tense to use in any given circumstance, whether we're using a tense by itself or if we're combining the two. Again, if it's an ongoing past action like the dog was barking, we would use the imperfect. Likewise, if it were a repetitive past action like the dog used to bark, we would use the imperfect. But if it's a completed past action, an action that at that point in time in the past was completed, we would use the preterite tense. When we use the preterite tense and the imperfect tense together in the same sentence, we're going to be looking at two different things. We're going to be looking at background information, and we're going to be looking at an interruption. The background information tells us what was going on, and will therefore be the imperfect tense, and the interruption is going to be the preterite tense. Here's an example. We were eating dinner when the phone rang. We have two actions here. Were eating and rang. One of these is background and one is an interruption. Our background info is that we were eating dinner. Therefore, that's going to be the imperfect tense. Our interruption is that the phone rang. Therefore, that's going to be the preterite tense. So anytime we have something that was going on that got interrupted, we're combining the preterite and the imperfect tense. The ongoing part, the background, is going to be imperfect. The preterite is going to be used for the part that interrupted whatever was going on. Notice that word order doesn't really matter here. We could write the sentence the other way around and the concept is still the same. The phone rang while we were eating dinner. We were eating dinner is still the background information, so that part's still going to be the imperfect tense. The phone rang is still the interruption, so that's still going to be the preterite tense. So our word order can switch around here, the meaning stays the same. Here's another example, and this time let's figure out which tense to use and then we'll write it in Spanish. I was watching TV when she got here. Our background information is was watching TV, so that's going to be imperfect tense. And she got here is our interruption, so that's preterite tense. We're going to use the verbs mirar for to watch and llegar for to arrive. If we're saying I was watching TV, that would be miraba in the imperfect tense. And she arrived, she got here, is the preterite tense, llegó. Then we can add in the rest of the words, which gives us yo miraba la tele cuando ella llegó. Again, we could say this other way around, ella llegó mientras yo miraba la tele. The meaning would be the same. It's the tenses that give us the relevant information. So nothing terribly tricky here, but again, it does take some practice. Just remember that the imperfect tense gives us the background, or in other words, it sets the stage for us, tells us what was happening, and the preterite tense gives us an interruption, something that occurred while the other action was taking place.